Hello everybody, today we're going to take a terrible floor plan and we're going to make it much better. This is a newly built 1,250 square foot 2-bedroom ground floor condo in Vancouver, BC. When you first look at the plan, you think, oh, it seems, fairly organized. But once you look a little bit closer, there are a lot of design problems that I think really reduce the property value of this unit. So we're going to identify the problems first, and then we're going to fix the plan together. So let's look at some of the design problems. Starting out with the front entry, you come in the front door and there's this long, narrow, and jiggy-joggy hallway to get into the main part of the unit. I think that is just terrible. It's really unfortunate to have that hallway. I think it's the result of another unit being right adjacent to this one, and the doorway can only go in the one location. I think the location of the kitchen is also terrible, particularly where they place the fridge. It is awful. It's right on access at the end of the hall. It's going to feel like an obstruction. Every time you come into the unit, you're going to smack into the end of the fridge, which isn't very nice. I also think the proportion of the living, dining, kitchen space is a bit of a problem. It is a very long and narrow space. It's going to feel a bit like a bowling alley. I find that in these type of spaces, the dining table often feels like it's abandoned in the middle of the room. And I don't like how they've pushed the sofa up into the corner, because the corner windows are really the nicest part of the unit, and the sofa is going to be having its back in towards them. So let's look at some of the other detail issues. Starting out with the laundry closet, this really baffles me. The laundry machine blocks your access to the linen shelving, which is tucked in behind the machine. How are you going to get to that? It's terrible. I also think it's really bad that there is a hall to get to a hall to get to a hall in order to get into the master bedroom. I find the master bedroom is way too small at 9'6" in width. Bedroom 2 is only 8'6" in width. That is a problem. And if you look, the night table blocks your access to 50% of bedroom 2's closet. I also think that the location of bath 2, the main bath, with the toilet being on access diagonally to the living room. If you are sitting on the living room sofa, you're going to have a direct view of the toilet, which is never a good thing. So there's a lot of room for improvement with this unit. So let's start out by clearing everything out. Very interesting. Once it's cleared out, it looks so much better. I think that where this design got off track is where they placed the bedrooms. And I think part of the problem is that they put the 2 bedrooms next to each other, and there really is not enough room for 2 bedrooms. If you think about a bedroom, it's about 10 by 10. And then you're also going to have all of the other stuff associated with it, such as the walk-in closet and the ensuite. You don't really have enough room for the second bedroom here because it's going to jut out into the living space. So I think that the second bedroom is going to have to be located across the unit on the other side, something like that. And you're going to have room for the bathroom and the bedroom. And what's interesting about that is when they're separated, what you have now is you still have a hallway, but it's a lot shorter to get into the unit. And then you have a large central space, which is not a bowling alley shape, which takes advantages of these corners for your living, dining, kitchen. And I think it's a much better layout overall. So let's have a look at what I've done. I've done a little bit of work in advance, and I have laid out the unit how I think it should be done. So I think you have to keep the door in the same location. You walk in, I've shortened the hall by, I'd say, 30%. I placed the laundry in towards the front hall. I've got a linen closet and a coat closet, and then you enter into the big central space. I've got 1 bedroom, which is the master at the top, and then 1 bedroom, which is the guest room. And interestingly enough, I've assigned the door to the patio to the guest room. I also think this would be a great home office, so there's some flexibility with the plan that way. I put the guest bathroom next to the bedroom, so it can be used sort of as an ensuite if you had a guest or a roommate, but it's also accessible to people if they are coming over to visit. They can go into the bathroom, and it's very private and very well located. So what we need to think about now is we really need to think about where we're going to put the kitchen. And I think there's kind of 2 locations that we could put the kitchen. I'm going to sketch them in and show you. One idea is the kitchen could actually be located here. So we could have the kitchen and the island, and it could be located there, which is actually not a bad idea, because that would mean that you would then put your dining table here, and you'd put your living room here. The only problem is I think that is a bit tight. We only have about 10 feet left over for the living room space, and I think that is a little bit tight. So I'm gonna propose that we actually do the kitchen on the other side, and if I just sketch it in quickly, we could just put the back counter of the kitchen there, and then we could put the island opposite that, and then that would mean we've got the dining table here, which I think is pretty good, logically. And then we've got a living room grouping, something like this, which we could actually orient a little bit differently. We could look out towards the windows as opposed to looking back into the unit. So that is what I'm gonna suggest that we do for the overall organization of the living, dining, kitchen space. And I wanna work on the detailing of this a little bit with you now. So first thing we're gonna do is we are going to draw in the fridge. And we have to draw in the fridge first because it's the largest appliance. And I always suggest that the fridge goes on an end because it shouldn't go in the middle because it would be an obstruction. So if we put the fridge on the end, and we have to make sure we scale it properly because it's about 2'6". I'm using my Magic Morpholio Trace ruler, which is such an amazing tool. And you guys should all get Morpholio Trace and work along these plans with me because it is such a great way of doing the design. So then we can put our back counter in. I'm just gonna go a little bit tighter to the wall. Oops, I'm gonna go much tighter to the wall. I'm actually gonna touch the wall. And how wide is a kitchen counter? How much depth do we need? We need 24 inches. So I'm gonna use the ruler just to make sure that I've got enough room. So there we go. I'm just gonna close the gap at the end. Perfect. So that is the back counter. I'm gonna leave 3'6" for the spacing to the island, and 3'6" is actually a really generous amount of space. I think you can get away with 3 feet, but if you can do 3'6" between the back counter and the island, that's even better. I'm gonna make it 3 feet to the wall. You can get away with a little bit less space to a wall because you don't have to open drawers or anything. And I'm gonna make the island 3 feet in depth, and the reason that I'm doing it to 3 feet is because that allows us to get seating on the back of the island because you have 24 inches for cabinetry and then you have 12 inches as the overhang for your seating. My lines are all a little bit crooked, but that is okay. It is a work in progress. We're gonna work on this together. So I'm gonna make the entire island. I'm just gonna check the distance from the back wall on the other side. Wow, we've got lots of room there, so lots of room to play with. So I'm gonna make it come down, oops, another, I'd say 1.5 feet or so. And I'm gonna close that off, and that is what I'm gonna do for the island. So I think that's actually really good. So one thing I like to check when I'm designing a kitchen is I really like to have a look at the fridge door swing. I wanna make sure that I don't have any issues with the door swing obstructing anything or hitting anything on the island or another appliance. So now let's lay out the rest of the kitchen. Really important, the cooktop placement. I like to center it. I mean, I think that's a really good idea to center it. So I'm just gonna landmark that. I'm gonna make sure, I'm just gonna put a little line here so that I know where that is. Oops, I'm gonna turn that back on. And I'm going to make the cooktop, which is, everybody knows a cooktop is about 30 inches. You can get bigger ones too. You can get ones that are 36 or 48. So you just gotta check your sizing. So that is the cooktop size. I really like it when there's space on both sides of the cooktop because I think that is really important to be able to have room on both sides. I never like it when the cooktop is jammed up against one side or the other. So now I'm gonna draw in the burners and I'm just gonna put 2 big burners in and two smaller burners, something like this. And the burners are done. And the end point that we have to do with the kitchen is we have to make sure that we've got upper cabinets. So I'm going to draw in the upper cabinets as a straight line across, and then they can get a little bit deeper over the fridge. I like when the upper cabinets come out full depth. Now, on the island, we have to think about where we're gonna put the dishwasher and where we're gonna put the sink. And it's really important when you're placing the dishwasher that you think about the swing of the door because the dishwasher door is gonna drop down. So I'm gonna wanna do it away from the fridge door and away from the oven door. So that means that the dishwasher is gonna go a little bit off center on the island, which is not a problem. You just gotta make sure that you don't have a collision with any of the other doors that are gonna open like the oven or like the fridge. So that means that the sink is gonna go there, which means we have room for like some cutlery drawers and some garbage and recycling. So I think that is really good. So that is how I think we should lay out the kitchen. You could probably even extend the island down a little bit more if you wanted a bigger island. There's lots of ways you could do this. So now let's think about some of the furniture, starting out with the dining table. Interestingly enough, I kind of already cheated and told you where the dining room could go. It actually could go here. I mean, that is actually a really good idea. It could go there. You could also have the living room furniture kind of, you know, facing that way, something like that. I think that is very, very reasonable to think about the dining table being up in the corner. I'm actually gonna place it down sort of in this zone, so it's really close to the kitchen. I have added a sliding door. I'm just gonna make sure I've got the spacing. We need like 2'6", 3 feet on the wall in order to not have a collision with the wall with the chairs. I've made this a sliding door so we can get out to the patio. Remember before we only had the one door. So the dining table I think works really good there. And then that means that the living room furniture, we have to think about where we're gonna place it. Where is our focal point gonna be? Our TV, right? So I think we should rotate the dining room or the living room furniture. And I think it would be nice if it would face towards the windows. And the thing that I like about this is that means that we can add our focal point, which I think is perfect on this wall. We can put our TV right on this wall. I'm just gonna make that line just a little bit heavier, which I think is great. So we have our focal point. We're gonna be facing the TV plus facing the view. You can circulate in behind the sofa to get out to this other patio. I think there's a lot of space, a lot of room. I think it's actually quite nice. I'm gonna put in some bar stools. I always like to think about where the bar stools are gonna go because it helps me understand the layout of the kitchen a little bit more. Ooh, I'm gonna just rotate this a little bit and get it dead on. And I think bar stools are around 18 inches in terms of diameter. So I'm gonna have one on the end. I love having one on the end because it means that one person can sit on the end and another person can sit opposite and you can actually have a conversation as opposed to everybody sitting in a big row or a big line. So I think that actually works really good in terms of the layout of the living dining space, and then we can add in the beds. Interestingly enough, I've made the master bedroom a little bit wider because remember before, it was only 9'6", so I've added an extra foot. It's now 10'6", and I've made the second bedroom 9 feet in one direction, and I've made it 10 feet in the other. So the second bedroom is still a little tight, but I think given the sizing of the unit, it is proportional. This would be also a great home office. You could have a desk up against this area, and you could look out at the view and go out to the patio and you could take a call. There's all sorts of stuff you could do with that secondary room. So this is what I think we should do to this plan to make it much better. Of course, I would love to hear your feedback and comments about this. You can send me a message. You can also follow me on Instagram and you can see all of my posts where I take floor plans and I fix them.